عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما العمل بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى.
So does it apply to a person that practices it but doesn't cultivate?
So obviously the one who calls to it is the worst. The one who doesn't call, there's different types. If he's an Ami, general person, he doesn't know anything, right? Just like a normal roadman, but he goes to another masjid. That wouldn't really come under it, because he doesn't know anything. In fact, you give him da'wah. Yeah? But that doesn't mean that you go to his masjid and start doing all the zikr and dancing in the masjid and all that stuff. Yeah?
Ustadh, what if the person is like let's say I invite someone to go to a lecture which I did today, but his father said no because they follow a different aqidah. Like, what can I do to the person? Like, he follows, like, telling me.
So your friend can't come because his dad said no?
Yeah.
Yeah, your friend's not alone today, don't worry. It's fine, his dad is online, he can't do anything. Tell him to watch it online. Okay?
Number 7. So knowledge is not taken from the people of innovation, but if he becomes forced to, then that is no problem, just as the people of hadith took narrations from them.
You know, when it comes to that, so look, a common question is can learn the Quran from people of innovation? That's a very common question. Generally, the ulama will say no. Why? You might say it's only Quran. I give you examples of how they change the Arabic language. You might think it's only Arabic language, right? But how it can affect. And another thing it does, it actually softens your heart. For Ahlul Bid'ah, he's my teacher, he taught me the Quran. And it softens your heart towards them. Now some ulama might give an exception, but with strict conditions. Some ulama I've heard them say, it's only allowed if there's no one else you can find whatsoever, and he's somebody that doesn't call to his bid'ah. Right? Some will give those exceptions, but generally that's not an excuse for anyone now. Now you can find teachers online, teachers on masajid, it's not hard to find a teacher. Right? So, and there's recordings you can listen to, so it's not, I don't see that as a viable excuse anymore for the person that has determination and is willing to sacrifice to actually find a teacher to learn the Quran from. Now,
Number 3, being stern to a student who transgresses the level in research or appears from extreme quarreling or bad manners.
now, number 3 is the teacher has the right to discipline the student if he transgresses his level. Right? He does things which is not befitting. Like he says stuff or he doesn't show the mannerisms in the classroom. Teacher can tell him off. The teacher can even kick him out of the lesson. The teacher has that right. And then maybe the biggest dalil for that is Imam Malik rahimahullah. When the questioner asked him, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa, kayfa istawa? That if Allah rose over the throne, how did he do it? Imam Malik said, the meaning of the word is known. Right? How it was done, we don't know. It's not mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. Believing in it is obligatory because it's in the Quran, but asking about it is an innovation. None of the Sahaba and Tabi'in asked this question. Imam Malik said, get out of the class. Take him out of the class. He's going to cause fitnah amongst the students. So they kick him out of the class, and that's allowed. Okay? That goes back to the teacher, and the Shaykh's going to mention some of the examples of that now.
If the teacher needs to remove the student from the class to reprimand him, then he should do so, just as Sufyan did, and just like Shu'bah used to do with Affan being Muslim in his class. The student could also be reprimanded by turning away from him and not answering him, for indeed silence is an answer, as it was stated by Al-A'mash.
Okay, just before we carry on, one other point which I wanted to mention, which I forgot to mention here. At the top of the page here, where the Shaykh said it can be allowed if somebody's forced. Yeah, if somebody's forced. MashaAllah, the brother put in a footnote. What's the example that you're allowed to study Ahlul Bid'ah if you're forced? Like this is, look, if you're forced, that's not the rule. Right? Somebody's got a gun to your head and says, say something against Allah and His Messenger sallallahu. In that scenario, it's permissible. That's what Bilal radiallahu anhu when he was, not Bilal, Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, when he was forced to do that and he's being tortured, and he went to the Prophet sallallahu and he said, they told me to swear at you, so I did. What did the Prophet say? He said, if they do that again to you, say it again, no problem. Why? Because you're forced. You're not accountable for it. As long as وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ, your heart is full of iman. So being forced is an exception, it's not the rule. Right? Because swearing at the Prophet is kufr. Right? But in that scenario, the Prophet said, go do it again if they force you again. Right? It's an exception. So if you're forced, then obviously the scenario is different. And Shaykh gives an example. Let's say you're studying in a university. Let's say you're studying in Medina University. And they happen to have hired a teacher, maybe they didn't know that teachers are mubtadi'. What do? Leave the university, come back to UK. there's more harm gonna come from that, right? So, look here, the example of such is the one who is studying in a university or the likes, and an innovator is assigned to his class, and he has no way to avoid it. What you do is try to change class, or complain and say he's like this and bring proof. And he might, alhamdulillah, Medina did this stuff like that. We had a student who was from Ahl al-Bid'ah, and he was actually calling people to the Bid'ah. So me, Ustadh Ihsan, and a few others, we went to the university and we said, this is what he says and this is what he does. And they looked into it. They sometimes try to get rid of students like that. So no way to avoid it. Then that teacher, then he is forced to sit in it. So if you can't do anything whatsoever, the class, you have to sit in that class. And for the sake of one class, in a subject, you know he's Ahl Bid'ah, you know what he's saying is incorrect, and you're a student within university, like you're at that level, you should have a foundation where you're able to differentiate between what's right and wrong, right? You just khalas, get to the lesson, pass the exam, right after half a year, you don't see the guy again. Okay? That's when you're forced. That's like an example of being forced. Now,